Hello everyone. This is a video briefing for the first assessment on the BSS065-3 Business in Practice unit. So we're going to cover the task in the assessment, the division between group and individual work, as well as taking a brief look at the business problem contained within the case study. So if we start actually just by reminding ourselves that there is a unit handbook for this unit, and it has a lot of really useful, important information in there. So please do access it. You can access it via the unit information folder on the Brio show. It should be right at the top of the list on that particular folder. There are multiple sections in the handbook, but obviously you want to take a look into section 2, which is a unit assessments section, telling you the deadlines, the policies around late assessment, the policies around failing, and so on. As well as that, there is another section in the handbook which highlights issues around plagiarism, ChatGPT, and other AI tools. So please do read it, but I just want to highlight something which is quite key. There is a policy on within the university, but on this unit as well, that no AI tools can be used to actually generate text for the main assessment, the main body of the assessment itself. So everything from the introduction to the conclusion should be written by yourselves. So if the marking team is concerned that any AI tools were used during the writing of the main body of the assessment, that's probably going to result in a Viva and then an AC or an ACP process. You can use ChatGPT for research purposes. It's a mixed bag. There's some research tasks which AI tools are very good at. There are other research tasks that AI tools are not particularly good at, but that is not necessary. That is not an academic concern if you're using ChatGPT or AI tools for research. However, you must reference this use as well as keeping screenshots. So if you look in the handbook, you'll find links to the university referencing guidelines, and there is a section on how to reference the use of AI tools. In terms of other common plagiarism concerns or issues, homework help services or any third parties who are offering to write assessments is absolutely not permitted on the unit. Grammarly is not permitted either. So any AI tool, which Grammarly is, which is going to reword your work, whether it's Grammarly or indeed things like Quillbot and other rewording sites, are not permitted for use. And the same thing goes for Google Translate and translation services as well. So if you're using a translation service to translate individual words or even a sentence to help you understand or express yourself, that's absolutely fine. That's not a problem. But anything which is using AI platforms, which again Google Translate is, to actually translate large chunks of text, so paragraphs, pages, or entire sections, or indeed the entire report, that is not permitted. Right, so moving on to the assessments themselves, you'll find this under the assessment folder on the Brio shell. So for assessment 1, you have the actual brief itself, you have a process log template, and you have the client briefing document. So in this particular semester, it is Slough House Training Limited. So the task that you have been given, which is going to be the same across both assessments, is you're taking on the role of a business consultant. A client has come to you with a business problem. They would like you to research and analyze their business problem and then write them a report giving them a justified recommendation. So we are splitting this into two distinct elements on the assessment. The first is going to be group work, so shared research and analysis on the business problem, and you'll be doing that in a group, and then actually writing the individual report to give the client the justified recommendation is going to be individual. So you're building that on the research and analysis done in your group, but you're actually writing the individual report by yourselves. So we'd expect some things there to be much easier because of this structure. You're able to use the research drawing upon the shared group research, so you're able to access a much larger store of journal articles, high quality non-academic sources, and so on, because everyone is sharing the research that they're doing. You're able to draw upon the shared group analysis as well. So in this case, it's likely to be Pastel and Porter's five forces analysis. You've been discussing and talking about the business problem in your groups. So the actual understanding and analysis demonstrated should be quite strong as well. But the actual report where you're presenting your recommendation and you're arguing for your recommendation to your client is going to be individual. This does mean that you can work within a group where everyone chooses option A and you actually think option B is better. That's not going to be an issue. You're able to perhaps choose the same as your group, or you can choose a different recommendation as your group. That's not a problem, because the actual recommendation is what the report is about, and that is individual rather than group. So the assessment brief does go into detail about what the group work contains as opposed to the individual work. This is to make sure there is no confusion about what you need to do in your groups versus what you need to do by yourselves. So the group work comes first. So you've got 5 major elements here. The first, you have to define a detailed project plan. You'll find a template on the Brio shell which has the roles, responsibilities and tasks broken down by group member, a timeline of the overall project. You've got various sections talking about risk and mitigation as well, and highlighting what your deliverables are. So your deliverables in a group, to use project management language, are the things you're actually producing in the group. Your project plan is not a deliverable. It is going to be something which you have to include as part of the process log, but itself is not something which you are working to produce. You are doing the project plan simply to help you produce your deliverables. It is something which you're doing in order to help coordinate and manage the group. It is not a deliverable. There are 3 suggested deliverables for this group. You can add additional ones, that's not a problem, but at a basic minimum, I would expect there to be a list or a repository of useful sources that all group members should be adding to be shared amongst everyone, a completed Pastel table, and a completed Porter's 5 forces analysis. So these are your deliverables. These are the things that you're actually producing, and you need to have a project plan in order to produce them. You need to plan who's doing what, how everything is going to be put together, what the minimum required level is, and so on. So those are the things which we are producing as part of our project, our group work here. The process log has to be included as well as Appendix A, so that's going to have your project plan within the process log. So that is a required appendix. There is going to be a checkpoint as well during the assessment process. That's where you're going to be presenting your plan for the group work as well as your progress. You'll get questions, feedback, and comments from the tutor, which should help you in both the group and individual work during the project itself. And lastly, your deliverables, the things you're producing, whether it's the shared research repository, the Pastel table, or the Porter's 5 forces analysis, must be included as appendices to the individual reports. So your individual reports, introduction to conclusion, are an argument for your recommendation, and those are individual. But your appendices are going to be shared if they're the deliverables, or potentially the process log is not going to be shared, but certainly the project deliverables are all going to be shared. Do not be concerned about the Turnitin similarity index and whatever score you get. That's not going to be an issue. The only time where similarity index may be a problem, or will be a problem, is if it shows that there's similarity in your main body, so everything from introduction to conclusion, or there's something in the say the Pastel table which has just been copied without any citation. If they show similarity between the group members in the appendices, that's to be expected. you're all producing your deliverables together. That means all of the deliverables are going to be identical, and that's what we expect to see in the appendices of the individual reports. So in terms of the report itself, so you're asked to actually develop and write a business report, not including just the shared analysis stuff that you've done, right? So you've analyzed the micro and macro environments, that's Pastel and Porter's. You've got a really strong understanding of the issues around the client's business problem. However, that's not what the client wants to hear. The client doesn't want to read through 15 pages of Pastel analysis. The client wants to hear a direct argument for which business option they should take. So what are you recommending they do? What is your recommendation? And what is your justification or your argument for the recommendation? So that's going to take elements and information and analytical points from your Pastel and Porter's documents, but it's not just replicating your Porter's or your Pastel in your main body. So a good way to think about it is, if you've paid thousands or tens of thousands of pounds to a consultancy agency, you don't want them to just sit there and start lecturing you about theory. You want them to have actually done analytical tools, right? You want them to have used Porter's 5 forces. You want them to have done proper research, to have analyzed the market, because you want them to give you, a reasoned, strong recommendation. But that's something which you can read through in the appendices in your own time. The most important thing you want the consultancy agency to do, the business consultant to do, is to address your business problem directly. So that's what you're doing in the main body. You're actually addressing the business problem directly by giving the reasoned recommendation. And again, as I said before, it can be the same as other people in your group, or it can be different completely. That's not an issue at all. This is the individual report. Give the recommendation and spend the main body of your assignment actually arguing and presenting a strong argument for your justified and reasoned recommendation. Right, so moving on to just the actual problem itself. So this is a note which is on the actual case study itself, but which has proved an issue in the past. So I want to make it very clear. This is not a real company. So what we have done is we want to provide you guys with a business problem which we know has multiple solutions, which is interesting, which there's lots of data to research on, and there's lots of information available. The internal information here is not the key thing. The key thing here is actually the changing micro and macro environment. So if you remember back to your first year, you've got 3 major environments that businesses have to worry about. So one is the macro environment, that's the Pastel stuff, the political, social, economic environments. Then you have the micro external environments, which are things which the company is directly interacting with, so competitors, customers, suppliers, and so on. And then you have the internal environment, which is the employees and the internal resources. We are not asking you to do any internal environmental analysis. You are not analyzing the company's or the business problem doesn't relate to the company's internal staffing. It doesn't relate to the company's internal resources. The business problem relates to the external micro and macro environment. So for that reason, this is simulated data, is not a real company. So please don't try searching up Slough House Training Limited. I've chose Slough House because I grew up in Slough and I'm a fan of the Slow Horses TV show. There is no company, real company called Slough House Training. So the business problem here is an interesting one, but it is a straightforward one. It's a training company which launched during the COVID pandemic, and it's a SME, but a digital first training provider. So this is not a traditional training provider that had to adapt to COVID-19 and training virtually, but rather it's a company that was launched during the COVID-19 pandemic, and therefore is a company which only deals with remote virtual training. They're doing fairly well. They're projecting a strong profit. They have full-time members of staff as well as contractual staff to cover their. So they've got flexible staffing arrangements, and things are looking to be fairly positive. However, the last year, and this is in the real world, there has been a drive by many companies to get employees back to the office. This is some major companies. Amazon engaged in this, Microsoft engaged in this, as well as a number of other major companies in the UK as well as abroad. So the company is now considering whether they should double down on different remote working skills, or if they should look at the way the external environment is heading and in external trends, and transition to in-person training courses. So there's lots of academic studies on this. There's lots of expert commentary. There's lots of newspaper articles. Lots of companies kind of either going to a back to the office drive or doubling down and kind of really leaning into the virtual flexible working arrangements. So that's what the fundamental business problem is. So the company's doing fine. There isn't necessarily any internal issue with the company, but they were a company that was launched during the pandemic, and they're worried about long-term external trends. So that's why they've come to the consultancy to commission a report to give them a recommendation for how to pursue their business growth, whether it's option 1 or it's option 2. Okay, brilliant. Thank you guys for listening, and yeah, please do contact your tutor or myself if you have questions, and yeah, good luck.